The following podcast is an RMG Media production.
It's time we go beyond the handshake. It's time we deepen business relationships and take it to the next level of cultivating and building relationships past that business card exchange and beyond the initial handshake. Welcome to Beyond the Handshake, where we will take a deep dive into getting to know businesses and business owners, why they do what they do in business, what drives them to success, why they work so hard, what they struggle with, what they succeed in, and tips they have for other businesses to learn from their experiences. I am Lucy Miller, founder and CEO of Women Connect. Let's go beyond the handshake. Today's episode is with Liza Graves, the founder and CEO of StyleBlueprint, a leading digital media platform that celebrates Southern living. Raised in Virginia by entrepreneurial parents, she grew up with a deep appreciation for small businesses and community, values that led her to Vanderbilt University to marry a fellow entrepreneur and, at just 25, to open a café in Nashville. Today, Liza leads StyleBlueprint, sharing hyperlocal luxury, practical advice, and hidden Southern gems. What began in 2009 as a passion project has grown into a trusted platform reaching over 3 million unique readers each year. As CEO, she has built StyleBlueprint into a certified woman-owned business through WBENC and earned recognition along the way. She's been named as Southern Living's most stylish people in the South, featured on Nashville Lifestyle's most beautiful people list, and honored with the Nashville Business Journal's most admired CEO and Women of Influence awards. Under her leadership, StyleBlueprint has also been recognized as one of the NBJ's best places to work. When she's not championing small businesses or curating the best of the South, you'll likely find her in the kitchen, experimenting with new recipes, perfecting old favorites, and indulging the very passions that first sparked the StyleBlueprint journey. In today's episode, we talk about having a remote team and how to cultivate the culture that you need to grow and be successful. We also talked about what drove her to create StyleBlueprint and how it has evolved over the years. We can't wait for you to listen in. Well, I am thrilled to have Liza Graves, founder and CEO of StyleBlueprint, on today.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
This is going to be exciting. We've already had an amazing conversation, not on camera, so we need to
repeat that.
I know, right? Well, I'm excited to dive into learning more about StyleBlueprint and why you started it and just what your vision was from that. It sounds like it started as a passion project. And
oh my goodness,
it
really was. It started just kind of like at the kitchen table. And it was 2008-9 when the economy was really bad. Mm-hmm. All these local businesses had closed. I mean, it was like, I remember a friend of mine who creates these gorgeous, gorgeous Christmas cards. And she was like, yeah, even people that can afford to buy them from me this year are not, because they think that it's like too extravagant for other people to receive. So she was losing money off these people that could even afford her. Like it was, we forget, what that was like.
Right. Seems like forever ago though.
It does seem like forever ago. And like every year that goes by, it is beginning to be more forever ago. But, people who lived through that, the war wounds are still there, developers, real estate agents, businesses that went out of business. So my business partner and I had a business partner at the time for 10 years, bought her 50% of the company at the beginning of 2019. So the first 10 years we were together.
Okay.
And really our passion was to keep America not to become this homogenous thing, because all the things that were bringing character that we loved, we saw going out of business. And we were like, oh my gosh, what if it all goes? And then we would see kind of, support local, but it was like buying the Yankee Candle at the mall. And we were like, that's not really what our vision of local is. And so we really wanted to go out and open up the doors to local businesses and almost give people permission to use their vacation brain to shop in their own backyard.
Ooh,
that was what we really wanted to do. And so we had no business plan. We made no money.
Awesome.
Brilliant,
That's how it all
right?
starts.
Like, isn't it like such a great plan? We're going to make everybody else money, but we're just going to spend money creating this. Is really how it started. So we were out there, we're doing this.
And what did that look like? You were highlighting them.
So we would write like a business write-up. We would go like, oh my gosh, open the doors of this restaurant or of this boutique. And a lot of them are out of business now. Now they survived, but just through natural, it's been 16 years,
right.
But they would tell us like, oh my gosh, my business went up 33% this month and it has sustained. Like we were like, this is working. Yeah. We need to figure out a business model, but this is working. And we had told our husbands, like, we're not making any money for the first couple of years. Like we're just really are here to give back to the community, give back to local. And it's funny because with the advent of social media, supporting local is far more of a thing. Again, it just wasn't a thing at the time. A lot of entrepreneurs were born in the 2008, 2009 era because they lost their jobs or they were leaving college. And, it was, just getting back in, like makers became a huge thing. I don't know that term was like really there before, So this was really, we were out there doing something that wasn't being done, which is crazy, right?
That is crazy.
But there was no Instagram. Facebook was something that people were like, oh, I think that's like something like my family in Canada does. Like it just wasn't a thing.
I'm trying to remember back to what I did in 2008 and 9. Yeah, I guess there wasn't.
No, and like when people talk about there was MySpace, and that felt like, and I was, at the time in my mid 30s, so that felt like something that younger people did. Like there was like no place for me. So we had a church listserv. My business partner and I went to the same church, and we just put it out on the listserv, like, hey, we're starting this blog. We're trying to support local, and our church like really supported us and read, and we'd be like, we had 200 people read today. Woo. I remember 7 or 8 months in, and I had like my little pencil skirt on, a little t-shirt, and I walked across the street. I lived over on Central Avenue, which is a historic district in Nashville, and my business partner lived across the street. We both went to Whitworth Pool. And so I walked across, it was like hot as Hades, and I tracked her down. I'm like, we have 200 email subscribers. Oh my gosh. And I was like on cloud 9. We have 210,000 today. Right. But I've never been so happy as that 200. Like it was amazing.
Humble beginnings, right?
Yes.
That's amazing.
And we just worked, we worked our butts off trying to just get this thing. And it was really, our reward was other people's success. Like 100%. It was when we could drive more money being spent in the local economy. But one other thing, going back to that vacation brain, it just really ticked me off. That sounds like angrier than I was, but when I would talk to people that would say, well, and again, economy's terrible. Well, I can't shop in Nashville. I got to go to Chicago. I got to go to Atlanta. And I was like, have you opened the doors to what has happened in Nashville in the past few years? Have you gone into H. Audrey? Have you gone to Franklin and gone into Emmeline? Have you gone into these really great boutiques that you're thinking what's going on in Nashville? And at the time, Jamie was in town and Coco, and maybe they had been to some of these, but they hadn't been back in. And again, I was like, your local economy needs you now. So how about you not buy that ticket to go to Chicago and you use that here and just really give back? And that's really what it all started from.
That's amazing. So starting very local, support local here and Nashville based, but then now you've grown, across the Southeast.
Yes. So we started off saying that while we were here in Nashville, that we didn't want it to just be something that would only ever be in Nashville. We really saw this as something where, one, we saw this as a conversation around a dinner table of women connecting. And what I mean by that is, like how I grew up was, people my generation, my mom's generation, my grandmother's generation, all around a table. And we would sit there for hours and we would just talk about like, we were all reading the same books. Like there's no reason multiple generations can't read the same book. Right. We would talk about what was current in fashion, and different generations would, talk about that, or like a recipe or health issues or finances. It was like all there. And there's a way to bring in that local conversation to that. Because I could say, oh my gosh, your green blazer is so great. Where'd you get it? And you could say, oh, well, I got it at this boutique. And so bringing that into a conversation that arrived in the inbox every day, because there's also an epidemic of loneliness. And it was during that time too. And I think that stems from, I think back about some of my best times, and it was in college with, as women, we're just like love to be around community. And then you start having kids and you're, and maybe you had a job and you quit your job. Maybe you're trying to go back and forth, but you don't have time to go out after your job anymore. So you have all this time that's just you or you and your children, you don't have a big community.
Right.
And if that's what you thrived on was having your few girlfriends all the time or being out. And we wanted to be kind of that girlfriend that arrives in your inbox that's in the know, that can help you feel more planted so that when you do have that opportunity to go out, that you know what to do, you know where to go.
So y'all emailed every day?
Well, we started off 3 days a week and then we went to Monday through Friday.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. And blogs at the time, people kept saying that we were like mommy bloggers. Like that was like a term, mommy blogger.
Right.
But that meant that you were talking about your parenting skills.
Right.
So we purposefully like really didn't want to talk much about that because that was like our like thing that we were trying to not be.
Right.
We're like, no, we're
trying to do something different.
Yeah, we're trying to hold up a mirror to this great city and reflect why it's amazing and to have everyone fall in love with it again because you're sitting in it, but you might be missing what's going on around you. And it didn't take much to reflect that into our writing. It just took purposefulness in doing that.
Do you have a writing background?
Well, went to Vanderbilt and,
right,
and so, liberal arts degree, we had to write a lot.
Write a lot. Okay.
Yeah.
You're very
wrote
smart.
a whole lot.
You figured it out.
Well, yeah. I mean, you figure it out. But Professor Brandt, this English class I took, my gosh, I mean, I remember thinking I was so smart and I got a D on my first paper. And I was like, what? I was a junior. I was like, what? I got a D? And I mean, I worked so hard. And my last paper, I got an A- on it. I still have that. I have that paper because I was like,
a lot.
That one class taught me more than anything. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, okay. So going back to it, starting in Nashville, and then you were able to expand.
Oh,
outside.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's okay.
So then what happened was, remember Groupon?
Yes.
And Living Social? Like those were like again, economy is terrible. Groupon comes along and people are like, oh my gosh. And, everything from like the Wall Street Journal, I think, to, all the news channels, like this is the best thing that's ever happened to small business. Like this is the best thing since sliced bread. And we were like, really? Because we're talking to all these people business owners, and they have done a Groupon and they are like, this is not bringing my people in. This is not matching customer to business well. And they're coming in and they're only spending the amount on that and they're never coming back.
Right. They were a one-off.
Like they're driving from an hour away to save $20, and it was, and great that they got to save $20. However, I'm looking at it from the business person's perspective.
Right.
And, the whole thing is you want them to be in there, become a repeat customer. And so I thought it was like, I call it like our thinking trail. I was on this hike in North Carolina where all of our best ideas come from, this one trail. And so I'm hiking it with my husband. And I was like, I think that we need to white label Groupon, which means taking a platform, you just put your own,
right.
But you're piggyback writing on someone else's technology, and have a Style Blueprint deal. And that because we have the right audience who will go in, they'll buy above and beyond that because we do have an audience, not everybody, but we have an audience that typically does have a little bit more income than the average person and wants to support local. So it could all come together.
It's a good marry of the two.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I love that because they might not be as price sensitive to say, I really love walking into this boutique, but then I take pictures of all the labels and I go back and I try to find the lowest. Like that's, I'm trying to support that business. So we did the Style Blueprint deal. We called it the SB deal, and it just immediately took off.
Wow.
And it did great. So then with that income coming in, we were able to duplicate this and go into Memphis, Louisville, and Birmingham and Atlanta over the next few years.
Okay.
And then opened up Charlotte, and then started a regional edition. And then we were not making any money, by the way. We realized that our business model, suddenly we're like, this is not making money.
Mm-hmm. At that point,
it's like 2015.
Yeah. Okay. So where would the source of income have been?
From the deals. So,
okay.
And then from the deals, we were able to start thinking about, well, how do we have bigger partnerships with people? Right. And it became more advertorial.
Okay. I was going to ask about the ad model.
So it was just, we wanted to have pretty ads though. So it took us a while to figure out how to have pretty banner ads and have enough white space around them and not have them pop up and have like a dancing person and volume and all the things that we hated. We wanted it to be tasteful and not screaming at you at 5 a.m.
Amazing, right?
Yes. And that was hard.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, we were able to expand in these other markets, and we had these teams in each market, but really at the end of the day, we were inefficient and we had to figure out how to make it efficient. And we have done that at this point. But really what's continued to grow is that regional model. And instead of us going in and hiring these teams in a city to seed it and then not really making money for 18 months, but having to have everything else support it because we've never taken a loan or anything,
Okay.
Then we realized that there was better ways to go about doing this. So really, when I purchased 50% of the business, I scaled back and I took Atlanta and Charlotte and folded it into our regional edition.
Okay.
And then said, we just need to firm everything up. Really kind of did a smaller edition in Louisville.
Okay.
Got the company good and firm, realized where our profit margin was, really dug into our products, had a vision 5-year plan, and then COVID hit. And thank God we had spent that year planning for 5 years, realizing where, what our margins were, because COVID was devastating to our business. And the only reason I never let anyone go, but when people naturally left, I just didn't replace them.
Okay.
But PPP saved us.
Okay.
100% saved us. Yeah. So that was,
for that.
Oh my gosh. I mean, I know that there's a lot of reports out there about abuse of PPP, but the number of small businesses that were saved, that were employing people, like it's not that we lined our pockets with this.
Right.
We got to pay everybody.
Got to pay everybody.
Yeah. And provide them stability, and everyone was scared, and it just provided them to be around the same people every day. And, but one of the great things that COVID did give us, because we had people in multiple markets, trying to have a team culture was hard because we had our Nashville office team and then we had our remote team, and everyone had different roles.
Right.
All of a sudden the playing field was the same.
Okay.
It was Zoom. We showed up for our daily huddle in the morning. Everyone was the same rectangle on the square,
Nice.
on the screen. I mean, and it suddenly everything really started to actually,
Interesting.
the glue was there more because everyone took up the same amount of space. Everyone had the same rules. So we kept that model to this day.
Awesome. So specifically the way COVID impacted you all, because you were highlighting and supporting local businesses, people were going out and about less.
Yes.
Like drive that home for me on how that, so they had less money to spend with you all.
What happened was, so at this point, by the way, the deal side of it had kind of like hit its apex and started to come back down.
Okay.
And there was a lot of customer service issues with that. It was a really hard model, actually.
Yeah.
But what was great about it is anyone that did a deal with us, when someone walked in and used that coupon, they got to see how much money they were spending. And it was like, this is working for me.
Right.
So it was tangible.
Right.
And so much of marketing is very gray. So it was so nice to have this tangible proof. But it was becoming... I kept thinking, we got to get rid of this. We got to get rid of this.
We did this and now this is hard to keep up with.
Yeah. And how do we, COVID happened. I was like, I don't want to do a deal with any business because what if they go out of business and I've already paid them and now I'm out all this money, right? Because if you're the business and someone buys a deal from me, well, I turn around and pay you and I only keep a small percentage.
Okay.
If you go out of business, all these people are going to be asking for their money back and I'm going to be out twice the money.
Right.
And I was like, I can't put my company at risk. We need to stop the deals. So that gave us the ability to stop. And it was on our 5-year plan to get rid of it anyway. So we just stopped. But the way that it affected our business so dramatically was because our partners were local, mainly retail and services. Our next set of partnerships were events that bought sponsored emails from us or marketing packages.
Okay.
And then our next group was travel.
Yeah. All the big things.
It was all gone, right? So what I did, and by the way, like real estate and home, some of them stuck with us, but these people that had so much business all of a sudden, they didn't need to advertise.
Right.
So they could actually not advertise and still do well. So we were just left in the middle.
Right.
So it was super tough. So I went to all of our advertisers and that January before COVID, and just because I just really lean into gratitude, I had written a handwritten note to every single one of our advertisers, over 250 advertisers.
Right before all of this?
And told them how grateful I was for their business. I had spent all of December and half of January writing a handwritten note to everyone. I think that's one of the reasons that we kept a lot of our partners.
That goes so far.
So far. But then I reached out to everyone and I said, if you will stick with us, I will reduce your rates to $100 a month for 3 months. And then if you can afford to come back, I would like you to come back to your previous rate. If you can't, I will keep you at $100 a month again for another 3 months.
Smart.
And we had, that way they were still in the billing cycle. It was, we didn't have to like resell them, right, with a new contract. And then people were grateful that I gave them the option, and people who could afford to stay said, no, you guys are doing a really good job right now and you're really supporting the community. We can keep it our rate.
That's amazing.
So that was, we lost, I mean, by the end of the year, of course, this didn't affect us till April because we'd already had our March billing go through, right? So at the end of 2020, we were down about 28%, but that was over 9 months, really. So where we had expected to end the year up like 10, so it was like a 40% difference, of what we had hired for and what we were expecting. Yeah.
So what did you pivot with what you did with the business during COVID and after? As far as what you did for your companies and how you showcase them? Well, because you're more than just a listserv email now.
Right. So, our bread and butter is our website and how the strength of our website, we get millions of people who read the website. And I think that in the media world, everyone has their niche. So whether that be, it's your Instagram or, your Pinterest or your website or your email list, ours is email and website is our main. But we had 7 different Instagram accounts, 7 different Facebook accounts, 7 different Twitter accounts.
Yeah. I understand this. I'll tell you my story in a second.
Oh my God.
It's a lot.
It's so much. And trying to make sure it's all on brand and that no one has misspelled anything and that no one's being offensive. I mean, oh my gosh. Like, cause everyone can be offended for anything. And then it always comes to me because you're the business
7
owner.
Different voices probably on what's being put out. Yeah.
Yes.
So every location then had its own.
Every location had its own. And we were able to just, Instagram, it's really hard to do this, but we were able to consolidate them all into one account. So we consolidated.
How did you do that?
Well, because in 2019, you were able to do that. In 2020, they changed. We had started to think about it in 2019. So we had started the process.
That's awesome.
And they were like, well, you have to be verified. And we were like, we've been around for this long. Yeah. And we leaned into the fact, we were like, well, we're seeing all these other people do it. We are a small woman-owned business.
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah.
Let me do this.
And we just were like, the dog that won't give up the bone. Like, no, we have to do this. We have to do this.
Amazing.
And they finally did it for us. I mean, we called in every favor of anyone who, we had friends that were like, well, my business spends like $2 million a year on Facebook ads. I'm like, okay, who is your contact at Facebook?
Right.
And,
I need a name and an email.
And we were calling everybody.
Wow.
And because we were able to consolidate that, what that meant though is we gave up that local presence, but at the same time, there's a lot of that. There's a lot of people that are out there doing a great job on Instagram, on Nashville. And on Birmingham and on Louisville, and again, we're like, let's lean into our strength. And our strength is to have a bigger account.
You're growing where you're going.
Yes. Yeah. And to be able to brand our destinations that we partner with and have it be the same voice. So again, we had to give up something in order to do that. But we were all about how can we have less people and have a bigger impact, because we're not making money right now. And if we're going to, go forward, we have to be profitable. So that was one of the things, that was a big pivot that we did.
Okay.
The second was we were charging people next to nothing. So yes, some people went down to $100 a month that were paying us, maybe $700, $800 a month. But some of our partners that were paying us between $200 and $300 a month, and the expectations
really high. Yeah, I'm sure.
Were so high. And when we had these local social media accounts, and it was like, oh, well, we'll try to get you on social media every month.
Right.
And you're going to be in our content like this. And you're going to have the ads. And I was like, this is just, the amount of creative energy, and we're putting in so much creative energy into these smaller accounts and stopping by to see them every month.
Right.
And.
Right.
And so I sat with my team and they're like, we're exhausted, and if our audience only likes some post 30 times, 30 hearts, and then our client is mad at us. And I'm like, well, we don't have control over this.
Right.
So we needed to take back control, and we needed to sell things that we had control over.
Yeah.
And that's why we don't sell a lot of social media stuff, because I don't feel like I have control over it.
Right.
Where when it comes down to reading an article, we've been doing it long enough. I'm fairly confident what is going to be read, and I know how to market an article, so once I can get a higher client to come in, that I have the money to market it, I have the money to do a series of things with it. And we are very transparent with our readers, so they trust us. Everything that is sponsored says sponsored.
Right.
And not all media does that. On our Instagram account, if we are a partner with someone, it says #partner,
right.
#@ like, I see it all over the place that people don't do that. We are very, very transparent, but we will also only take on partners that we know that our readers want to hear about, or maybe they don't know about and would like to hear about. So there has to be trust there.
Definitely. Wow. It sounds like y'all did some good pivots during that time to set yourself up for.
We needed to do less and do better with what we were doing.
Well, so my story on all the Instagram. So Women Connect started in Franklin. I had a Franklin Women Connect Instagram.
Oh, I bet you probably had all.
Yeah. So then chapter by chapter, it was no big deal to add one here, one there, one there. And then before we knew it, we had 10 chapters here in the greater Nashville area, each with its own Instagram.
And people don't
Facebook
realize.
business account.
Yes.
And so then again, one by one, no big deal. We added Kentucky, added Alabama, each with their own website, Instagrams, all the things. And last year I was like, this is it. We have got to, we rebranded to Women Connect.
Yeah.
And I wasn't able to consolidate all the pages. I just took our largest Instagram and made that the Women Connect official page, which is our main core one. And then now each state still has its own. I don't know if I'll ever be able to consolidate that all to one, but it simplified things so much. But what we gave up is we felt like if we're posting or sharing about something happening in Mount Juliet, where we had a direct access to the Mount Juliet ladies that were only following that because that's what's important to them, we lost that touch directly.
You do. And that's the thing. And it's hard. And I'm someone that really wants to be there for everyone.
Yeah.
And so it's hard for me. And it's hard for some of our partners and they'll come back and they're like, but you used to do this. And I'm like, I know we don't anymore.
Yeah.
But now we're sustainable.
Right.
We're a healthier place for our team to work.
And a broader audience.
And the things that we're doing for you have much bigger impact than these little, like we used to be doing more drops in the ocean. And now we're like, no, now it has an impact.
Right.
But I think they liked there's the post.
Right. Yeah.
I'm like, you know what? It might not be like that anymore. But I can prove all day long, because we're digital with the data, that what we're doing for you works. That's as far as getting them to you. Now, once they get to you, you gotta do your side. You gotta do your side. Yeah.
Wow. Well, so that's big pivots, and y'all have had amazing success. And so you're all across the Southeast now.
Yeah. In fact, our second biggest readership is from Chicago.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy? Yeah. But so many people from the Chicago area want to move to the South, or their kids go to school in the South, or they want a vacation in the South. So we have strong SEO. So we show up for a lot of these articles about all these places to visit. But Atlanta, Nashville, Chicago are our biggest readership. But then we have our hyper-local locations in Louisville, Memphis, Birmingham, Nashville, and then our regional edition, which is our largest edition out of it, like by far.
Well, so we were talking about your team being remote and your daily huddles.
Yes.
I also saw you recently put an article out on LinkedIn about just the whole importance of life balance and vacation days. I want to talk about that. Because I was like, I love that.
Yeah.
I don't take enough vacation days for myself. Do you?
This year, yeah.
Okay.
This year, my team will be like, she's not around. But for me, okay, it's complicated. I went, I think like years without really taking good vacation. And when I did, like I remember being at the Disney parks and my kids are in line and I'm on a phone trying to take care of work. Like I never stopped working. I went 2 summers, like not going to the pool with my kids. Like it makes me sad. Like the things that I did. And I was like, for what? You know, and like it's worked out with Style Blueprint, but again, I wasn't making any money.
Right.
I mean, I was like, and in all seriousness, like I made a little bit, but and people
not
like,
what you should be have been.
Well, like when I say a little bit, like less than $20,000 a year kind of money, you know, like I got reimbursed for some stuff, you know, but I was passionate. It was very much of an intrinsic thing that I was doing, like this need to get out there and support these businesses and our readers and have them just really feel connected. And that was so important to me. But wait, what was the question? It was about, vacation days.
Yeah.
So I went on this vacation in 2015. I took 2 weeks off and we went like the big, you know, like we're going to go to Paris for a week and London for a week. And I was like, I needed it so badly. Yeah. And every year for Christmas from 2010 on, we did go out of town because I would work so hard in December that I kept getting sick. Yeah. And I was like, and I felt so guilty to my kids. And I was like, I'm ignoring them during like this season where all this stuff is going on.
Right.
So when, you know, holiday break happened, I did not want to go hang out with my friends and go to all the parties. I wanted to be with my kids. So we just left town. And we started doing it in 2010 and then just really never looked back.
That's great.
And I loved it so much. And then just slowly, it just started becoming more and more of our life. And we have so many travel partners. Travel is about 50% of our business is destination marketing. Okay. And so it's very much on theme as well. Like when I travel, I love to explore local. That's the other 50%. We eat at local restaurants. We shop at local places. And I want my team to be able to do that too. And I want my team to work hard when they're on. Like we have to work hard and we are remote. So we can't get bogged down with I'm mad at this person or I'm just fried over this or blah, 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 you know? And so I really do want them to come with a full cup, you know, and that energy. And I don't like people leaving. I want to only employ really great people and I want them to stay. And so I want to make sure that they feel appreciated. And one of the ways for me to show my appreciation to them is say, go, we got you.
That's amazing. I mean, because there's work-life balance if you can ever achieve that all throughout the year, but also it is so important to take dedicated time away. Not just like,
I think it's hard to have work-life balance. During like the moment, I think you're always choosing. And so you know, you can only lead by the way you live, right? And so for me, I can just go overboard with work, but then I go like, but then I'm going to take off. I'm still going to check in.
Yeah.
I'm like the owner of business, you know what I mean? But I'm going to also like take some time. But that is when I always have my best ideas.
Yeah.
I don't have my best ideas when I'm working all the time.
Right. Because you're in it. You're just so,
Yeah. You are in your business and you are just seeing like process and this and that. And oh my gosh. But it's when you step out that you're like, well, that's why that's not working.
Clear your brain a little bit.
Yeah. And I want everyone to come back with refreshed ideas. And I'm not the only one that can make this business better.
Yeah.
You know, we got a team and I need to rely on them.
Come back rejuvenated.
Yes.
That's great.
Yes. Of course, we all have that inbox waiting for us. So it takes like a week to be rejuvenated.
Yeah.
Because you're just replying to emails.
I was rejuvenated,
I know.
but now I'm back.
And it's like 2,000 emails sitting there. Yeah.
Golly. Well, so I loved hearing about the growth and your change and the pivots. What would you say have been some of the hard things, whether it be like a process or... I know we've talked some about that with COVID and,
you know, there's the media industry is hard. So let's just put that out there. It's really a hard business. There's a reason that, it's always talked about how hard of a business it is. It's really hard. My husband works for me now and with me, he's like for you, but
You're like, get that right. With me.
With me. That's what I like to say. But he started in January of 2020.
Okay.
And he had sold 2 companies. I mean, he has this great business background. And, last year he was like, I think this might be like the most rewarding and hardest gig ever. Like, he's like, I love everything I'm learning, but this is a super hard industry, and it's funny because the first, 8 years, I felt like everyone thought I was just working in my pajamas at home, that I really this was like a hobby. I was like, no, I have 20 employees,
right?
And so that's the woman side of it. It's like, oh, that must just be but then I really wasn't paying myself. And I was like, so maybe they're right.
Watch me. I'm about to pay myself.
I know. I was like, I think I need to pay myself. I gotta work this out. But that comes from not being funded, right? So like,
so what was y'all's pit? Like, what was the turning point on profitability then?
It was
it repackaging?
It was repackaging. It was really, we came out of COVID a much stronger business than we went into COVID. So even though COVID was super hard, pain creates creativity. And when you can just see the end right there and you're like, okay, this is going to happen and we're going to shut down, or I've got to grow out of this and become better. And there's also like so many people during COVID, like they retired or they're like, I don't want to do this anymore. My thing was, we're not going to do this and not be profitable, and not just be a little bit profitable. Like this is a good business. This business deserves to thrive, and we deserve to get paid our fair amount. And I think that was just that woman side of me. Like, I'm not worth charging more. And it was like, no, you know what? We move the needle. It's good. We can't guarantee that for you, but what are you putting an ad in that can guarantee that? But we have, plenty of testimonials and people who have been with us for 12, 13 years who are like, this is like hands down the best.
So how did you shift your mindset though? Because I think a lot of women struggle with that. It's that imposter syndrome. It's the, I'm not worthy. I can't do more because this is probably where I should be, Well, how did you shift that?
Well, I will say the first time I started to shift it was probably 2000, maybe 18. So kind of late, right? And it was talking to this guy in Birmingham, and he had just worked with a lot of digital companies. And we're like, how do you see Style Blueprint growing? So it was getting outside expertise help. And he looked through our stuff and he's like, I don't mean to offend you, but this is like girly prices. You're charging people like $200-$300 a month and you're doing this for them? That's, I don't want to cuss, but he was like, that's BS, And he was like, this is just ridiculous. And I was like,
that's amazing.
Right.
That's amazing.
This is ridiculous, And I was like, and I hate that it took this guy saying that, but it did. But then it becomes a mindset shift, and then you implement it, and then, it just takes some time.
Confidence.
Yeah. So, and then you have to teach your sales team, like, you can't discount. I don't, and that was another thing, was just because you're there and someone's willing to buy from you doesn't mean you have to sell to them. It's not about, but if I could get a couple $100, I'm like, it's not worth it. It is not worth it.
What we're signing ourselves up for with this client.
Right.
Yeah.
This is not worth it. So, and I think that was a big mindset shift. So things really started coming together for us, and like, it's crazy. Like spring of 2022, we started pulling out of COVID. So it was like a full 2 years. And then the next, 3 years have been, really strong. So while our revenue was growing, but that profitability, it just was lagging behind. But then that's when it started to all get a lot better. So, I mean, it's funny because I remember people, they'd be like, oh my gosh, Style Blueprint. And it's just like, y'all just must be just doing gangbusters. And I was like, yeah.
I get that. Yeah.
Because
like we're working really hard.
Yeah, we're working really hard. But, again, I didn't go into it with a business plan.
Right.
And I didn't come from a media background. What I knew was what the reader wanted and how to make it work for our advertiser.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't know how to make it work for us. So actually, going back to your question, just last year, at the beginning of the year, so it was January 2024, I showed this thing to our team and I was like, listen, because we pick a word every year.
Mm-hmm.
Like since 2019, we've always picked a word.
Okay.
And so our word last year was health. Okay. And it was like health equals speed. So whether you're healthier, you can walk faster, you can move faster, but also the business and how the business has to be healthy in order to move faster and give back. And I drew this thing on the whiteboard and I was like, we need to start treating the business like it is its own person because it's only when it's healthy that it can give back to everybody in here and help with the needs. So my mind shift that I'm telling all of you is that now Style Blueprint needs to come first to be able to give back. And then we had been transparent with our financials for like a year and a half at that point. Okay. But everyone just started to understand, profitability means health.
Right.
It means we have the money to like hire the consultant. It means we have the money to go do the things we need to do. And without that money sitting there, we can't go have the team dinner.
Yeah.
We can't be like, we're stuck here. We need to go pay $15,000 to this group to come in for a few months and help us, because we're just going to be stuck, or the new technology or So I think when we started treating the business like the business, which I mean, like all these other people get that from the beginning, right? But it just took me, it was a little slow. It took me a while.
Learn.
I know.
Well, you're doing amazing things.
Yeah, thank you.
It's been awesome. We could probably talk all day. Maybe I should have you come back for a part 2.
That would be fun.
We'll talk about other things. One last little set of questions. So obviously relationship building is really important to you. And that's probably how the majority of your success has happened, is your capability with relationship building. My podcast is named Beyond The Handshake. And so I'd love to hear what that means to you in relationship building.
Well, I think that's changing right now. So in addition to having a word of the year, our word this year is 2 words. It's essential 3, and it's your 3 like essentials. So like what your job description is or what you're doing that day but for us, we always have 3 priorities for our business every year too. And one of them this year is world-class customer service.
I love that.
Because we were like, some things we're doing great with and some we're not. So when I think of Beyond the Handshake, I do think of that as customer service. And, what are you doing not only to close that business, but to make them feel special? And maybe they said no to you, but what are you doing? They're part of your community and they can still advocate for you. But like for me, I'm like, and who cares if they're not? Why don't you just make them feel good anyway? But I'm a big believer that out there in the community that you help each other and that it's not about what can they also do for you. It's just being filled with gratitude and showcasing that. And then that will come back to you or your company. But you do it because at the end of the day, it makes you feel good too, So Beyond the Handshake, I think I can be a terrible intentional person that doesn't follow through. Like I can think about all the things that I should be doing, but then I get bogged down with the details of life.
Oh, but you wrote 250 handwritten notes.
I did.
That is amazing.
That was also not part of my life every day, right? Like I could have been doing that a whole lot. Right?
That's really impressive.
But, and I haven't written many thank you notes since, but for Lent this year, which just started this week, I do this daily journaling thing. And my prompt last week was like, if you could change one thing about yourself, what would it be? And I was like, I wish I were a thank you note writer. I wish it were just part of my everyday. And I wrote all this thing. And of course, the reason they ask you these questions is so you can look at it and be like, but I can't be that person.
I can't do that. Yeah.
You know what? I can be that. And I was like, for Lent this year, I'm going to write a thank you note every day. Because I do think that the Beyond the Handshake is all about gratefulness. And if you can look at it that way, instead of a must do, a to do, but it's a mindset of gratefulness, then the way that manifests out there gives you so much of that Beyond the Handshake things that people appreciate. And it's just being grateful for you have the opportunity to meet someone. You have the opportunity to follow up with them. You have the opportunity to learn from them. You have the opportunity to be in business with them. You have the opportunity to know about them, to introduce somebody else to them. And I think it's that mindset of gratefulness to me that is what Beyond the Handshake is all about.
It's such a great, I love asking that question because it's different for everyone. And I love your answer.
Thank you.
Liza, this has been awesome. I didn't even get to all my questions. We talked about lots of other things.
I know. I feel like we could just hang out all day.
I know.
We should get the wine.
Let's do that. We'll do that. We'll do it another time. But thank you for coming on. And I just can't wait to get to know you more too.
That's awesome. Thank you.